Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your MTN Statewide News. I'm Jeanelle Slade. We are on breaking news at this hour just north of Billings, where a plane has gone down. We now go live to Victoria Hill, who's been on scene since that crash near the Billings Rod and Gun Club. This area just east of Rehberg Ranch. Now that's an area just west of Billings Logan International Airport. Victoria, what can you tell us?
Good afternoon, Jeanelle. Now, I actually just got off the phone with the Assistant Director of Aviation and Transit, Shane Ketterling, and he actually confirmed with me that there was one person on board that airplane who, as you mentioned, unfortunately did not survive. Now, that person was the pilot. They have been able to identify the owner of the aircraft, but the aircraft owner's name is not being released at this time, of course, due to contacting family members and the next steps in their investigation. But I was also told that this the pilot was doing some pattern work and doing some touch and goes on the small runway just outside of the main Billings airport, and they aren't sure why the plane went down. But right now there is no evidence that there was anyone else on board the aircraft, and it was just before 10 o'clock when the plane went down. And if you were anywhere in the Billings area, you were able to see a large black plume of smoke coming from the Billings rims. Now, the plane did crash within the property lines of the Billings Rod and Gun Club. I spoke to the club president, Bob Gibson, who said the plane landed in the club's 3D archery range.
Yeah, we had several people that were on our rifle pistol range that were shooting at the time, but they weren't anywhere close to where the plane actually went down.
All right, and the airport's assistant director of aviation and transit also mentioned to me that the airport operations were not impacted by this morning's crash, especially with the reduced number of flights going out right now due to the current pandemic that's going on. So commercial flights have been able to take off and land as scheduled. Well, that's all for now from the area of the Billings Airport. Jeanelle, I'll send it back to you at the desk.
All right, MTN's Victoria Hill live from the scene of a plane crash just north of Billings and west of Logan International Airport. Thank you so much, Victoria. That plane crashing just before 10 a.m. on the property of the Billings Rod and Gun Club. So far, we have learned that there were no survivors. Well, in other news from around the state, early this morning, firefighters responded to a fire at Flathead Valley Community College in Kalispell. Firefighters arrived about 1 a.m. to Founders Hall. The reason for the fire is still under investigation. Now, the school's sprinkler system worked properly, and authorities were able to extinguish that blaze completely. College President Jane Karras says one wing of the building suffered water damage, and a few students who could not leave the hall due to COVID-19 still live there. But Karras says only a few were affected and no one was injured in that incident. Well, it's round two of help for small businesses. U.S. lawmakers are working on a $350 billion relief fund for small businesses and the medical field. The stimulus plan is expected to go to the Senate today, the House tomorrow, and the president's desk for a signature on Wednesday. Congressman Greg Gianforte was a guest on Montana this morning via Zoom and says it looks promising.
The payroll protection program was really the backbone of making sure our small businesses could open back up, and we ran out of money very quickly. I was encouraged. I was on a call last night with the leadership in the House. It looks like we're going to be able to replenish that program, and that's really where the focus is right now, is on making sure we get help to our hospitals and all of our great healthcare workers that are helping us get through this, and also to replenish this PPP because it's run out of money.
Gianforte is heading to D.C. tomorrow, he says, to make his vote. Now we go to Wyoming, where Joe Biden easily won the state's first all-mail-in primary election. Biden received more than 72% of the vote. He's the only Democrat left after Bernie Sanders ended his campaign 12 days ago. Sanders still got more than 4,200 votes. Coronavirus concerns led Wyoming to cancel in-person voting and rely solely on mail ballots. Montana will do the same, and voters will be counted on June 2nd. Now it's time to check in on the weather scene, and the sun is shining today and the warmth is on the way. Good afternoon, Ed.
Good afternoon, Jeanelle. The warm is already starting to build in. In fact, rather nicely, a lot of readings are already at or warmer than we would be for afternoon highs. A lot of 60s across the western portion of the country, but also notice once we get into eastern Montana and the Dakotas where the winds have started to increase, and that's going to mix down to the surface throughout the day today. So we have a combination of those warm temperatures, low humidity in the wind, and that's increasing fire risk. Lake wind advisory in Montana around the Fort Peck area, but once we get into the Dakotas, even fire concerns once we get into the southern portion of Minnesota and Nebraska. A closer look at our regional forecast is coming up.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, COVID-19 has claimed another life here in Montana, but today there's also a little bit of good news to report. The state is reporting no new confirmed cases of coronavirus today, so the total of positive cases remains at 433. That latest death, however, is out of Toole County, where the virus has really hit hard. There are now 11 deaths across the state people who have died while fighting the virus. 243 have recovered. The state reports 19 people are hospitalized. Well, Montana is seeing a sharp decline in flu cases. Leaders with the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services say distancing guidelines have played a huge role in reducing those numbers. The state saw over 1,000 new cases of the flu every week for 6 weeks leading up to the stay-at-home order. Now, 1 week after that order, only 500 new cases were reported. By the week of April 7th, Montana saw less than 50 new flu cases. Since November, more than 11,000 people in Montana had the flu. Nearly 500 had been hospitalized and 17 people have died. Well, you've likely heard the saying, Montana tough, but in times like these, we're also Montana strong. Great Falls teacher Colleen Dews wanted to do her part to make her community stronger by creating bracelets with the words Montana strong. Every $10 from these $15 bracelets will go toward the purchase of meals from Great Falls restaurants to be given to essential healthcare workers. Dews shared her personal connection to both essential workers and those in the local restaurant business.
I have friends and family in the medical field and friends and family in the restaurant industry, and just felt like I needed to do something. I'm still working. I'm working from home, but wanted to do something to support everything that's going on.
You can learn more about Montana Strong bracelets, and if you'd like to purchase one, you can message Colleen through Facebook. Well, we have more ahead on the new news, including a yearly auction that was postponed and doors temporarily closed to the public. Find out how the C.M. Russell Art Auction carried on. Time now is 12:08, but first, Ed's up next with your statewide weather forecast.